blueprint, the architect of this blueprint. And with that, I had come to realize over the past several years with my healing work was that my soul has its own blueprint. And my higher self, which we've talked about on this show before, my higher self has a blueprint that goes with my physical essence. So it's kind of like it goes in layers. So there's the physical body, and then there's the higher self and the soul. Okay, and then it goes out bigger, and yes, everything's got, divine order is in everything. But I want to look at this more on a scale where our minds can grasp this. And I started thinking that I knew that over the years, because I understand that I wrote the blueprint for my physical experience. In other words, my astrological chart shows all of the various things that I perceived as abuse throughout my life. Okay, it shows all of the ways I think, all of the ways I trip myself up. It shows all of the ways that I operate, and it's impeccable to the point of almost ridiculousness how accurate it is. Okay, so I have the physical blueprint, and I had come to understand that there were certain things in my physicality that I was trying to do, trying to create based on what the chart said. But for some reason, it felt like no matter what I did from all the manifestation rules or energetic understandings, some things just didn't materialize. And I couldn't figure out why that was. So, and this was several years ago. So then I started thinking in terms, and when I asked, because I do talk to my guidance, and I know that my guidance is an all-inclusive package with me. You can't exist without it. So let's just get that clear. If you have a physical body, you have a guidance system, guidance team. You can call them guides, you can call them angels, whatever you want, but you've got them. And you've also got other realms to work with, angelic realms, and we'll talk about that in future shows, and we have already. But anyway, what I started realizing was that I working with my higher self about this astrological chart, and I'm holding my hand like that on purpose for you because this is the chart. I asked about this astrological chart that it had what were squares on it, and it has triangles. And anyone that knows astrology, I can slaughter this, but I'll do my best. Squares represent challenges in our lives, and triangles represent blessings. Okay, now what I've got is, and I want to back this up, when I said a higher self has its own blueprint, okay, and what I had come to understand was that sometimes the things I was asking for on the physical level without understanding and not having my chart there were not in accordance with what my soul actually wanted for me to do when I came into my body. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm hoping it does for those of you who are listening. Okay, anyway, when I acknowledged that, I realized that I wanted to bring my higher self into alignment with my physical body, okay? So that whatever my physical self was asking for, I was able to connect with my higher self or whatever, and know right away that that was actually appropriate to what I was desiring. And if it didn't, I always said, from a small child, I said for the highest good, and I never really paid attention to what that meant. I just kept hearing it and would say it as a child, and now I laugh because the highest good would be my higher self, my higher awareness. So if I'm asking for something on the physical plane that is not in alignment with my higher self, I'm not going to get that because my higher self is in control of this train, and my physical body is the physical manifestation of what my soul's wanting to do. Okay? So with that said, again, going back to triangles and blessings, this is a little education tonight. One of the things we've talked about in my conscious movement course is that, and for a lot of you, you may already know this, and I deeply appreciate your understanding and awareness of it, but there's some who don't, is that the symbol of the triangle would be the symbol of what we would call Godhead. Okay? So for a lot of people, we just use the pyramid on your money with your third eye in the center of it, there's your triangle again. The Masons knew this, but so if we have Godhead is in the center of a triangle, is the triangle, and people are reaching up and trying to reconnect with God, it's like that's kind of the opposite way that it works. What you want to remember is that you are taking that triangle and inverting it and bringing it down into your body. So if you were to imagine that Godhead was now at your shoulders and at your pelvic floor, okay, then you can, the idea of flipping the triangle over and inverting it and bringing it into your vessel would mean connecting with God. Okay, so when I saw the symbology, in astrology, which I didn't know, and I've been teaching this other part for a long time, the triangles were blessings all over the chart, and the squares were challenges. Brian knows this. Brian reads the chart like someone who reads Morse code. I mean, his brain just absorbs it and understands it and, breaks it apart and calculates it and figures it out. Well, my brain doesn't do that. I'm like, now what's that mean again? But I got the triangles and squares. And one of the things he said to me was that he would refer to the triangles as blessings and the squares as challenges. Okay? Now, I would look at those and I would think, finally, about 2 years ago, I got real serious about this triangle square business, okay? Because I know where the squares are on my chart, and I know what they mean, and I know what they're doing. And I had come through enough experiences that I won't even go into tonight, but I had some personal experiences on a very spiritual, more galactic kind of plane out of this dimension where I asked to turn a square into a triangle. In other words, what I did was sit back and say, okay, I know for a fact that a fear-based reality is not real, okay? I don't believe in, nor do I succumb to a fear-based reality, even though I have experienced a lot of fear in my life. I understand that's how I came to learn. I understand that's what the part about being in my body was about. I understand that grounding my energy is important and was important because that's when the fear goes away. When I connect in and I remember that I'm with God, then I can feel that, okay? Now, so I have these squares, and I'm looking at them, and I'm going, okay, the squares were represented to me as challenges. So the squares brought up fear in me that, oh, okay, this is something where I'm just going to get my butt kicked for my whole life because I have, Neptune squaring my sun and squaring this and squaring that. So I started to see it as something like a punishment, the square, or something, that I had to constantly have on my back. And what I said was, that just doesn't make any sense. Because if I know that fear-based reality is something we create here on this planet, and it's not really what we're about or what we're capable of at all, we're not operating nearly on all cylinders, on nearly any of the cylinders we have. If fear-based reality is not real, then okay, squares are challenges. If I'm of a higher intelligence, and I know that because I communicate with it constantly, I am 24/7 in communication with my higher self. I don't look at you and not see you as a person and you as a higher self. And I always, even if you're acting out, my higher self is talking to your higher self saying, why is she doing that? Why is he doing that? And we talk, and I'm not making it up. It's like I hear you and you hear me, and we do it telepathically, and you show me, and that's how I help you work through it. I'm not making it up. It just happens. So if I know that that's true, and I know so many other things that have happened are real, how is it that I'm letting an astrological chart make me feel like there's certain things that are not, that I'm never going to be able to heal because they're just on my chart? And I was like, well, that's not true. And Brian's never said that was true. This was just how I received it. So I thought, I'm going to flip it over because I'm a higher self. And my higher self my higher intelligence would have never created a chart or a journey that wasn't about me learning on earth as it is in heaven. And that's the theme I use for it. I am not religious, but I did learn that term in a religious state, and I apologize if it offends anyone, but that's the best way for me to communicate, bringing non-physical awareness that I came from of the whole and unity, and we're all one, into the duality of physical form, and then reconnecting it to the whole again, and the journey that we're on to evolve our consciousness. That's how it's done, okay? Now, so I take the square and I go, the square brings up fear on my astrological chart because it's a challenge. And I go, my higher self put it there. I put it there from a higher intelligence because I wanted to learn how to make it into a triangle, okay, a blessing. And then I started laughing. This all went on while I'm having my water in the morning in the kitchen. I know I'm making a long story of it, but this is how my mind works. And it wasn't intense. I was just more watching and listening, okay? So I'm sitting there and I'm drinking water that I have blessed. And I'll go into that in a moment. And as I'm drinking the water, I'm thinking about flipping it over, the oil coming